This is the only language that this regime understands.
It's a very good day for President Putin.
They've been using chemical weapons again and again.
This strike was at least twice as hard.
I'm absolutely convinced that that is right.
Military measures like that, I would argue, do not necessarily bring people back to the negotiation table.
It's very clear to anyone looking at this objectively, the use of chemical weapons in Syria, that this was done by the Assad regime targeting rebels, and they've been using chemical weapons again and again. This is not simply a one-off incident.
Chlorine's been absolutely confirmed, as the Prime Minister said. There's also very strong evidence that the nerve agent sarin was used as well. And speaking to the doctors, many of whom I've trained in Duma, I'm absolutely convinced that that is right.
Last time there was a strike by the US 1 year ago in similar circumstances, that didn't have the necessary deterrent effect, so it was required to hit them harder. This strike was at least twice as hard, probably more than twice as hard as then. The armed forces there would have been very cautious about hitting Russian targets, and quite rightly too.
There is a red line in Syria for the Russians, and that's the killing of Russian soldiers. On this occasion, we're told that the Russians weren't pre-warned that the attacks were coming, and I've no doubt that they had already preemptively evacuated their people. But if Russian pilots or Russian ground staff are killed, that will change the dynamic, and that's the balance we have to get.
It's a very good day for President Putin. The best in probably quite a few months, because I think that although the strikes were condemned by the Russian government, by the Kremlin, it looks that the United States heeded the warnings of Putin and decided not to go all the way in Syria, having limited or executing limited strikes, being afraid of confronting Russia head on.
What we see with Russia here is the same tactics, the same sort of language, the same rhetoric that we've seen in response to the Novichok incident. And it's an effort to sort of turn the table and sort of say, hey, this was an unprovoked attack from the West, and to try to sow doubt about the use of chemical weapons.
Almost like 60% of the people on the ground are killed by air bombardment. If this will stop through an airstrike, through a coalition of limited action by the international committee, then it will do two things that are good for Syria. One is that it will reduce the casualties, the civilian death on the ground. And I believe this will actually bring the regime under the auspices of the Russians to the negotiating table to come to a political solution. Because this is the only language that this regime understands, and unfortunately the Russians understand too.
Well, military measures like that, I would argue, do not necessarily bring people back to the negotiation table. And we will see what happens in the Security Council later today. But I think what is important is that we're not just talking about these issues, or that the countries concerned here are not just talking about these issues in a public forum, in a forum like the Security Council, but they're also talking to each other quietly behind the scenes and trying to come to grips with what actually has happened and how we can come back to the understandings that we had at the beginning of this process in 2013, which was that we would guarantee that there would not be any chemical weapons capabilities by anybody.